Welcome to Strade Bianche, the classic on the white roads of Tuscany. Just over 70 kilometers from the finish here with 3 leaders. The attackers are Kelvin Moore of Natalia, Nigel Moro of Doimel, and Javier Lopez of the AlphaTauri team. So they went away on the Montalcino climb after some earlier attacks failed to get away, and that is the situation now. Most of the chasing behind being done by the Sismic and the Futura Forestall teams. They have some favorites they believe can win the stage. We'll throw some of the fancied riders up on the screen right now, ones we'd expect to get most of the points. But we're on the long gravel section here. The next section, starting around 54 Ks to go, that one's going to be the hardest. I think we'll see some attacking there. With these three just trying to conserve their advantage, because with a 3.5 minutes lead at this point in the race, they have a good chance of hanging around in the finale, possibly sneaking in for a high finish. Or even win the race, because that's how things can go in Strade Bianche. The early breakaways, often a hard time to bring them back. The peloton pretty much intact on this section. We'll have to see if the pace is increased at all when we go back and take a look at those guys. But the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad still fresh in the minds of these teams, with Euskaltel Euskadi dominating. They're not at the front today though. I think this course is a bit too hilly for that team. And as mentioned before, here's Sismic and Futura Forestall, content to set the pace. Now they haven't made much of a dent in this advantage over the past 10 kilometers or so. It's been a fairly mild pace. So we'll see if the stronger riders try and turn things up a bit later on. There's Miroslav Kostra. His best result so far is 2nd place on his stage of Tirreno Adriatico. It looks like someone else is going to be the team leader today, probably Glenn Martens, who finished 5th in the Omloop. Laura Duverne, a decent candidate as well. We'll see if she can make it into the final selection. But things could split up a bit as we head over the top of this climb and out of the gravel section. These roads are so narrow that if you're not at the front of the race, it just takes one rider to drop the wheels. Suddenly you have a big chase on your hands. There's Tamirzanov just getting across a little gap there. But you see what it's like to be towards the back of the peloton in a classic like this. So once someone just loses contact, you have to expend a lot of energy just to get back on terms. It looks like the second group on the road isn't too far away. I think they'll get back around the start of the next gravel section. The Monte Santa Maria. That is where we are going next. It's a very steep little inclines on this gravel section. I think this peloton is going to be greatly reduced. Maybe we'll see the big favorites like Lazarescu or Kaiser launch a big attack. It's really up to Futura Forestall because they're the team with the most contenders. And they race pretty aggressively in the Omloop, so we'll see if they can keep it up. Meanwhile, these three already on the gravel section. The advantage has come down a little bit to 3 minutes and 15 or so seconds. So we get a notification for a flat tire, and it's Rodolfo Lucci. Well, this rider just can't catch a break with his bicycle because that's not the first time he's gotten one of those this season. Not really a candidate to win today, but could have been up there in the right situation. Meanwhile, the pace by Ishikawa Kitetsu of Futura Forestall starting to string this field out a bit. There's Ibai Light, the top scoring rider so far. Just grappling to stay towards the front here. And you see some of these splits and little gaps starting to form, and the riders just have to dig deep and try to chase it down. Looks like a bunch of Kyoto riders just trying to stay in contact. But there's some near the front of the pack. They have Oscar Galati and Egon Kallas, some pretty good candidates for a high finish. Kitetsu still on the front, and Moro's been dropped, so there's just 2 left in the breakaway. That's a little bit surprising because Moro's a very strong rider, but on these gravelly cobbled sections, that's not really where he's at home. Lopez and Kelvin Moore are a bit better suited for that terrain. So they will march on, see how long they can survive as Carlos Nella, the little climber, who really hates this type of terrain, but he's still in this group. And he'll do a turn of pace before his job is done for the day. But Sismic has looked very strong. Glenn Martens should be looking to make a move pretty soon. perhaps take a smaller bout with him. You see the field has been reduced, around 20 or so riders still left. So we get an attack here with 44Ks to go. It's Samuel Oudin of the VeloTour team. Now the team leader has to be Jerome Moikin for this race, so it could just be a setup move. But he's put in a big dig here. Egon Callas trying to bridge the gap, and there's some other riders who've attacked. That's Matsuyoda, Jonathan Kaiser, and Jerome Moikin. So the VeloTour tactic is to get 2 riders up the road. Samuel Oudin, he's just pushing on, not waiting for anybody. Callas has to work pretty hard to close this gap, but the 6th round pick from France, certainly making a name for himself in the Strade Bianche. Surprise attack from VeloTour. Somebody's dropped the other attackers. It's Matsuyoda, so he's dropped Kaiser and Moikin. Galati has bridged across that second chase group, and Sismic, they have been caught out. They have to chase this down. The Euskaltel riders, they've been dropped. Lefay just hanging on, stay in this group. He's not very good in this hilly terrain. But Sismic, they were asleep at the wheel for that one. Martins should have marked it, or Duverne for that matter, but they haven't. And the group of 3 up the road, that's Oudin, Callas, and Matsuyoda, are over a minute ahead of this group already. With 35Ks to go, and the nature of this course, that is a bigger gap than it seems. So they're really going to have to work together as a team to bring back these 3, because they're already taking their relays in good turn. Moro about to be picked up. In front of this group right here is Kelvin Moore and Javier Lopez, still a minute and 40 seconds in front. Just over 30 kilometers to go. And that was the last of the very long gravel sections, but there's still some gravel between here and the finish and some steep inclines. And Javier Lopez, he's suffering. Kelvin Moore is going to drop him. So he's the strongest rider of the break, and he will push on as long as he can. And in this second chase group here, these 3 with Callas, Matsuyoda, and Oudin, that they aren't working well together, then Kelvin Moore would have a chance to win. Don't see that happening though, because these 3 looking to get a big gap over the remaining peloton. Callas taking a big turn, but the others still look comfortable. You have to wonder if these 3 stay away, which is looking more and more likely as the kilometers tick by, who would be the strongest on that final climb. On paper, perhaps it'd be Egon Callas, but at the end of a long classic, you never really know. Kelvin Moore, just trying to hang on, but his advantage is coming down. It's just a minute flat. As Javier Lopez, about to be brought back by the next group on the road, and this peloton is holding the gap at around a minute 30 or a minute 20. It's not coming down quickly. Futura, Forsalt, and Sismic, the 2 teams who've worked the hardest today, have not really controlled the race at the most decisive moment, and now they have to chase to get their leaders back in contact. Here's Tamirzinov, a very strong helper for these sorts of races, but he's looking tired. He doesn't have the legs, and this is how an advantage goes out to a breakaway. When a rider tires in the peloton and nobody else takes up the pace, that's Lazarescu, one of the pre-race favorites, and he probably should just attack at this moment, but he's not going to. And there's Kelvin Moore, he's about to get caught. A brave attack, one of the heroes of the day, but Callas and the others about to get back on his wheel. And the gap to this chase group from the peloton is now up to 2 minutes. With 19Ks to go, that is not going to come back, so one of these 3, or maybe even Kelvin Moore if he can hang on, is going to end up winning Strade Bianche. So a real coup here for VeloTour, who have got a rider in the finale. After a pretty difficult start to the season, they scored 0 points in the Amupet Newsblad, but now they have Samuel Oudin, an unlikely candidate, who's in this final with Egon Callas, Matsuyoda, and a very tired Kelvin Moore. Gap is around a minute 50 seconds now, under 20 kilometers to go. The final kilometers of this race, it's going to be downhill, then with 3Ks to go, an uphill cobbled climb to the finish. That's going to top out about 1K to go approximately. Some twists and turns, and then they'll turn right into the finish. Not space for a proper sprint. And here's the state of the peloton, because Eloisa Donna, who's by her lonesome with no teammates, Doing a pull at the front with all these Sismic and Vichua 4-star riders should probably do the work themselves. Lazarescu finally decides to take a pull. But things not really going to plan for those teams. The Kyoto riders, they don't have to chase because they have Kalas here. Udebaya does not have to chase because Kelvin Moore is still in this group. Although, for how much longer we don't know. Of course, Hackett, if they have anybody left. No impetus to chase. And there's the 10 kilometers to go banner. The gap 1 minute 48 seconds. So I think that's going to do it now. The nail in the coffin. There's no way that all these riders will get caught. So now the games of cat and mouse begin. Who's going to start launching early attacks? Who's going to chase if somebody goes in the front? Who's going to wait until the finish to make their move? Kalas and Matsuyoda you would think would be favored on that final cobble climb. But I wouldn't underestimate Udon because he's pretty good on this sort of terrain. So there's a counterattack in the group behind, that's Glenn Martins who's launched a move. Too little, too late, I think. He's going to give it his best try. The peloton not really giving him too much of a leash. I think that's Kelvin Moore just dangling off the back, so he's been dropped. 5Ks to go. So those 3 attackers, the around 35Ks to go. Kalas Udon, who started it all, and Mario Matsuyoda. They are the last 3 survivors, the final selection of Strade Bianche. They go down this twisting hill, and thankfully the crashes are off so the rain won't cause any problems. And the Via Santa Catarina, the finishing cobble climb, is just to our left. So who's going to hit it first? It's going to be Matsuyoda. It's a very narrow road, so it's important to be towards the front. Matsuyoda, he's going to go hard. He's launching an attack. 1.2 Ks to go. He's got Udon and Kalas, but Matsuyoda, I think he's cracked a bit. Udon hits it now. Kalas looking tired as well, but they're going to go shoulder to shoulder. The road winds around. Udon puts in a very last dig. Now this will be a big upset. Samuel Udon of Valnor has done the impossible. To call him an outsider would have been very generous, but Udon has pulled off a massive upset for the Valnor team, and his teammate Jerome Moikin, who was the team leader, is going to come home in 5th place. That has to be one of the signature moments of the entire season when it's all said and done, because a 6th round draft pick that nobody expected anything from at all has just gone out. He is attacked, he started the decisive move himself, and in the end he was just barely the strongest on the Via Santa Catarina. Well, that is the magic of the VeloTour in this day and age, and in a classic like Strade Bianche where just about anything can happen. A very unlikely winner, but a worthy one at that. Egon Kalas, he's going to finish in 2nd place. Matsuyoda is 3rd, he faded a little bit on the cobble climb towards the end. Best of the rest was Glenn Martins, who launched that counter move. He was 34 seconds down. Jerome Moikin, also Valnor, was 5th. As we look at the rest of the top 10 here, Oscar Gladi of Kyoto in the same time as Sloikin, as part of that big chase group. Lazarescu, the pre-race favorite. Kelvin Moore, the hero of the breakaway, and he was actually the one who started it all. That first move on the Montalcino. A well-deserved 8th place. Josephine Udebaya, her 2nd straight top 10 in these classics, she came home in 9th place. And Balashkov of AlphaTauri continues to score consistently. He was 10th, 1 minute and 1 second behind. The rest of those stragglers in that fragmented peloton, Odo Schmidt in 11th, Teuton in 12th, Eloisa Donna there in 13th, Beltran is 14th to score her first points, and Tony Kierkegaard rounding out the top 15. Some other riders scoring as well down the 20th place. The most unlikely result, and a very satisfying one at that if you're a fan of the Valnor team or team manager Jay. In our next classic, the first of the 5 monuments, Milano-San Remo. That means it's a big scoring race, over 700 points and then some for the winner. And that's going to be a big rendezvous for some of the sprinters and puncher. So I'll see you next time for that race. Thanks for watching.